Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. I hope you're hearing me all right. Please let me know if you hear me all right in the chat. Okay, well, I'll just wait for your messages. But thank you for the ones who are here in the office and the ones who are online. We have people from different countries. A few might be logging in later. And thank you, Joe, for coming to visit Innova. We are in the offices of Innova Education, where we help out with your whole process to submit your application through to the visa process. And we have here Joe Power, who is an international recruitment manager from the University of Glasgow. She will give us a lot of information about Glasgow. And then please mute your microphones and we will have a question session in the end. Thank you, everybody.
So my name is Jo Power and I'm based in the Glasgow office at the University of Glasgow. I come to Mexico usually 2 or 3 times a year, so to meet with students and advise them on how to apply for Glasgow and what to do once they've got an offer with us as well. So I'm going to talk to you for probably about 20 minutes or a little bit more about the University of Glasgow, just so you can get some of the key facts and hopefully feel excited about studying in Glasgow by the end. So just moving on to slide number 2, that's all right. So basically, we are quite an old university, the University of Glasgow. So we've been established since 1451. So we're over 650 years old. So we have a very long history. That picture there gives you a bit of an indication of our buildings, although actually those buildings were built in 1870s, so they're not as old as the university itself. We have another few key facts about Glasgow as well. So we're known for being a friendly city. So in various league tables and rankings, we've had some nice positive rankings. So we've been voted the world's friendliest cities according to the Rough Guides as well. This week, I'll mention it later, but this week we've just been voted the UK's cultural capital as well. So I'll say a little bit more about that. That was a recent EU report that came out this week. Also, we have UNESCO World Heritage status for the City of Music. So that means that we have a lot of music gigs happening every week in Glasgow. So apparently it's over 300 every week of varying sizes. So from very big venues to very small venues. The other things we offer, for example, at undergraduate level are our 4-year degree programs, which are quite flexible. So you can start studying something quite general at the beginning and specialise later on. And then also we have good employment statistics. So 95.9% of students are in employment after 6 months after graduating. So that's quite positive for us. So then another few key facts. So we are usually in the top 100 of most world university rankings. So we are currently 99 in the Times Higher Education ranking, and we are also, I think we are 69th at the moment in the QS World ranking. So fingers crossed we maintain that position over the coming years. But it means that we have a very strong reputation. We're a large university with a very good research reputation too. So I mentioned we are in the Russell Group as well. So if you're not aware what the Russell Group is, it's basically a bit like the Ivy League in the UK. And there are 23 Russell Group universities out of around 130. And it means that we are research intensive if you're in the Russell Group. Also means that most Russell Group universities tend to offer everything. So they have a wide portfolio of programs. Something else we're quite proud of actually is that we've been voted joint first for student satisfaction in the Russell Group. So that's quite pleasing because actually Russell Group universities, because they are research intensive, don't always get high student satisfaction ratings because they don't focus on teaching in the way that other universities do. But we are quite happy with our #1 spot there because it means we're managing to do both and satisfy the students accordingly. Just a little bit about our alumni at Glasgow as well. So because we have this very long history, we have some very, very old alumni who are obviously no longer alive but have some very important in the world. So people like Adam Smith, we've named our business school after him, so that's the Adam Smith Business School. We also have key engineers and scientists like James Watt and also Lord Kelvin. And then we also have John Logie Baird, who helped to invent television, and people like Joseph Black as well. And on top of that, we have 7 Nobel laureates going back in history too. If we're thinking about more recent alumni, then we have our current First Minister of Scotland, who is Nicola Sturgeon. So she is the person who runs Scotland as part of the UK at the moment. And then we have a lot of creative types like Stephen Moffat, who helps to write Doctor Who and Sherlock, which some of you must have watched, I'm sure. And then also some scientists as well. So we have a nice range of kind of creative people and scientists that have studied at Glasgow. We also have Gerard Butler as well. He's one of our alumni, so he's quite a famous actor who lots of women tend to like, so that's a good privilege. And also Mari Black as well is worth mentioning. She is the youngest elected MP in modern history, so she's a very young MP that we have within our parliament. So if we're thinking about Mexican students at Glasgow, we have around 50 at the moment from Mexico studying at Glasgow. They tend to focus in areas like science, engineering and social sciences, but not exclusively. They are often, but not always, funded by CONACYT, or they have support from FUNED or FIDER. We have agreements with all of those organisations where we offer discounts on fees as well. So 30% discount on CONACYT fees and 15% for FUNED and FIDER. And we also have an exchange programme and research links here in Mexico City, both with UNAM and with Tec de Monterrey. And we're looking at developing links with universities all around Mexico as well, so that we don't just focus on Mexico City. So my colleague, Penelope Morris, is the Dean for Global Engagement for the Americas. And she's been in Mexico this week, and I was with her this morning, and she's now flown off to Zacatecas to go and visit the university there. So we're trying to make sure that we don't focus all of our energy just in Mexico City. Okay. So then moving on to Scotland, we have a nice picture of you there of some of the landscape in Scotland. So we're very famous for mountains and hills in Scotland. They aren't the highest mountains in the world. We probably have higher mountains in Mexico, I think.
Yeah.
But they're still very nice and scenic, and it's really easy to escape the city and get into this scenery relatively quickly. So actually, I wish I could tell you exactly where that picture is taken. I'm not sure where it is, but it would probably take maybe 3 or 4 hours to get into scenery like that. But if you wanted to go, for example, to Loch Lomond, which is the largest loch. A loch in Scotland is a lake, so it's the largest body of water in the UK. That's only 40 minutes away by train. So you can escape very, very quickly, and you don't need to have a car as well, so that's quite useful. So yeah, lots of outdoor activities available within the city of Glasgow, and also in other places like Edinburgh. There's a very strong culture, so you can go and see lots of different events, live music, art, theatre, comedy, and there's lots of festivals that go on throughout the year, and there's the famous Edinburgh Festival in the summer, which a lot of people come to visit. And then there's obviously a very long history in Scotland, lots of very interesting architecture. If you compare the city of Glasgow with the city of Edinburgh, the architecture is very, very different. It's nice to see the differences between the two cities, even though they're only an hour apart from each other. And then, of course, we have castles, ancient attractions, but also lots of engineering feats across the country too. Then a little bit more about Glasgow for you. So again, we've got all of these different rankings about the city of Glasgow. So those of you that know Scotland a bit will know that I am not from Glasgow or from Scotland. I've got an English accent, so I'm from England. So I only came to Glasgow about 3 years ago to live. So it's still relatively new for me. I think it is one of the nicest cities in the UK, and it feels like quite a dynamic city. So it feels like it's going up in terms of dynamism, culture, things that are going on in the city. It's quite an exciting place to be. I think it's a good city for young people. Lots of people come to visit. I think it's quite a cool place to visit as well. So there's lots of things to do, lots of nice cafe culture, bars, pubs, that kind of thing. It's the largest city in Scotland, so the population is 1 million in the city of Glasgow, and it's the 4th largest in the UK. We say that it's the top place to shop in the UK outside of London. I think that's probably right, but whenever I say that to other people from the UK, they think it's their city. So that's a bit more disputable, I think. I have a colleague from Leeds who says, no, it's Leeds, it's the second best. But from what I know, I think Glasgow is better. Also, the city itself, so even though you've got the countryside very accessible outside the city of Glasgow, it's actually quite a green city within itself. So it has over 90 parks and public gardens. The actual name Glasgow translates in Gaelic to Dear Green Place. So it's known for being quite a green city. I mentioned already about the UNESCO City of Music status that we have. So we're very proud of that. We'll do our absolute best not to lose that. The picture you're looking at now, actually, is a picture from the River Clyde. That's the main river in Glasgow. That's where a lot of the industry from the past was located. The shipbuilding was the big industry that we had in Glasgow before. And those are the two big music venues that we have. So the Armadillo and the SEC Hydro. So they're the ones where any big name band, if they're doing a European tour or a UK tour, they will play there. And you'll probably pay a lot to see them, but you know that they will come to Glasgow, so that's nice. This is what I just added a couple of days ago, because we've got, the picture we're looking at here actually is the Kelvin Grove Art Gallery and Museum. And that's a really beautiful museum, which is in the west end of Glasgow, only a few minutes walk from the university campus. And the really nice thing about museums in Glasgow and mainly in Scotland, they're always free to visit. So this is a very big museum. I visited many times. I still haven't gone to the second floor and the third floor because I don't have to, because I haven't paid to go in. So I can just nip in, look a little bit, go out again, and just do it bit by bit as I like. So that's really nice to know that you can just pop into these museums and go whenever you want. So I wanted to say a bit about the City of Culture, because this was a new report that came out this week, which we're quite excited about. So this is an EU report, which is the Cultural and Creative Cities Monitor. So that this edition from 2019 came out last week. And we were voted the top cultural and creative centre in the UK. So that's London comes second, actually, in that case. So we're very proud of that. And I think maybe it's a bit easier for Glasgow. It's not a huge city, but it feels like there's a good concentration of culture right across the city. We also came first for openness, tolerance and trust in Europe within this report. So that was something we were really glad to hear about. And I think it hopefully sends out a positive message, because the world and Europe and the UK with Brexit, it's not looking very positive at the moment. So I think hopefully this helps to show that even though all of this stuff is going on, that places like Glasgow are actually really nice places to be, very positive, very friendly. So, I mean, parts of the reason we have this accolade is because we have over 100 cultural organisations, including universities that help to train people in the arts. We have more museum visitors than any other city outside of London. So, and this museum that you're looking at there is one example of that. And then even, I don't know if any of you know about the Turner Prize, but this is an art prize that we have in the UK. It's like a modern art prize. And 8 of the latest Turner Prize winners were born, trained and worked in Glasgow. So it's a really nice place to sort of engender the arts and culture. And even if you're not an art student, you're going to feel the benefits of that because of all the things that you can do and all the culture you can experience. This is a picture of the West End of Glasgow. So this is a little street called Ashton Lane, which is right next to the university campus. So it gives you a nice idea of what's available right next door. So all along this street is just bars and restaurants, but it's got a nice kind of cafe culture feel. If the sun is out, then you can sit outside. Look, there's chairs and everything outside, so you can definitely sit outside and enjoy the weather, whatever it might be. But yeah, so, and I mentioned already the Kelvin Grove Art Gallery is right next door as well, and that's located within a very large park called Kelvin Grove Park. Also within the West End we have the Botanic Gardens as well. We have big venues like Oran Moor, which has a lot of live music, theatre and comedy. And then we have a cinema right on this street that you're looking at as well, a very small cinema. So it means that the West End of Glasgow has kind of got everything you need. You've got the city centre about 30-minute walk away. And so I suppose the city centre is quite good for the big shops and things, big restaurants. But you could easily kind of live quite a nice life just staying in the West End. You don't have to, of course, but a lot of students will live in the West End. A lot of staff from the university live in this area. I live there as well myself, so there's quite a lot to do and see in the West End. And most people from around Glasgow will come there for a nice restaurant or something like that. So some of the best restaurants in that area. This is a picture of the campus. So I like showing this picture. It shows you the main campus. You can see the main building, which has the quadrangles there. So that's the old part of the campus that was built quite a few years ago. And then around it, you can see a lot of those modern buildings around also belong to the university. And we've got some campus development going on right now as well. So we've been able to, so that's the main building there. So that was designed in the late 1800s. This tower that you're looking at in the middle, you'll always see it from all around Glasgow. So it's a real landmark of Glasgow. And if you're lucky, you can actually climb up it, but you have to get special permission. But the views from there are really good. The library, you can see, is more of a modern building, but it's not too far away from the main building. But it's got 13 floors. It's open 24 hours a day, so it has everything that students need. And also within the campus, we actually have 3 museums, which is quite unusual for a university. So we have even that cultural focus comes into the museum. We have Charles Rennie Mackintosh House, which is really interesting. So if you know Charles Rennie Mackintosh, he's a famous designer from kind of Art Nouveau period, Art Deco, Art Nouveau. So he has a house that's actually been designed in his style that you can go and visit, which is right on our campus. And the Hunterian collection is there as well. Just to show you before I go back, we are actually redeveloping the campus a little bit, and it's unusual for a UK university to be able to do this. So we found space by taking down a building in the middle of the campus, which is going to create a more open space so we can have another central focus of the campus, which isn't just the main building. And also, I think if you can see in the corner there, just above the main building text, you can see what was an old hospital. That's actually been taken down, and we are building on that land now as well. So considering that it's quite a built-up area, we've actually managed to find a lot of space to develop the campus even more and add to all of our learning buildings that we have. So just in case anybody is wondering what we actually do at Glasgow, this is a very quick overview of all of the programmes that we have and all the subject areas. So we have almost everything. We're known as a civic university, fairly comprehensive. There's a couple of things we don't do. So we don't do chemical engineering or programmes related to oil and gas, and we don't have architecture as well. When we talk about the arts, we are talking generally about theoretical, historical programmes, so not so much in the practical arts, like you wouldn't necessarily find fashion design or graphic design or fine arts within the University of Glasgow, but you find those programmes in other institutions like the Glasgow School of Art. So that's a separate institution that we have. A little bit about entry requirements. So we have our minimum GPA of 8 out of 10 for Mexican students. Usually would need a master's degree if you're coming to do a PhD. That's perfectly okay anyway. All of these requirements line up quite nicely with sponsors like CONOCYT, for example, so it doesn't usually cause any problem for us. If we're looking at scholarships that we might award to you, well, I'll mention those in a moment, we would normally expect a GPA of 8.5. So the scholarships we award are generally for the higher performing students that come to us. Then English language requirements, I would say normally we prefer IELTS or TOEFL. IELTS is the kind of standard English language test that you would take for a UK university. It gives you no problem with your visa. TOEFL is fine as well, but we've agreed to accept that from Glasgow. So if you don't have one of those tests, it's worth thinking about when you will get one. Requirements for IELTS are usually 6.5, but can be 7 for some programmes. And then for the DIBT TOEFL, it would be 90, and sometimes a little bit more. But those are the standard requirements. If you haven't applied already to Glasgow, then you can just do it through our website. If you're working with an agent like Innova, they can help you through the whole process anyway. But you can also, a lot of Mexican students ask me about when they will get the final transcript and diploma. Sometimes there's a bit of a delay for getting a certificate, for example. So you can apply before you receive that. You will probably need all of that ready for when you apply for funding, but we can look at your application as long as we can see a transcript of some sort we can make a decision on your application, and that would normally be giving an offer that might be conditional on the certificate or on an English test, for example. If you're looking for a PhD, then we have quite a useful search for a supervisor tool on our website, and that can be quite a useful way of trying to identify and narrow down the list of people that might be potential supervisors for your PhD. We recommend you try and do that, identify a supervisor before you make a formal application to Glasgow. And it's probably obvious, but you do need to make sure everything you submit is translated into English, and we like to see the originals in Spanish as well. That's a little bit about our representatives in Mexico. So we only have 2 different companies that we work with. Both offer very good support to the application process. I know, for example, with Innova in particular, they have a 100% success rate with visa applications, which is very good, and something they're very proud of, I think. So that means you know that you're going to get a very good service, and they're going to make sure that everything kind of goes through properly. The big challenges through the application process are probably getting the funding and the visa. I think getting an actual offer from Glasgow is almost the easiest part. Not to say it's really easy to get an offer, but that part goes fairly smoothly. You shouldn't have to wait too long. But the big challenge is making sure that you get funding, and you often have to wait quite a while for the funding application. And the visa process is okay, but if you try to do it on your own, it could go wrong, and then you run out of time. So it's very time critical. That's the problem with the visa application. So I really recommend getting help with that part of the process, if nothing else. But I think getting help all the way through is really useful. Okay, I'm just going to say a little bit about the academic experience that you would expect in a university like Glasgow. Because we are a research-intensive university, we try to make sure that that feeds into the experience you have when you're learning at Glasgow. And we also talk a lot in the UK about critical thinking and analytical skills and that kind of thing. So it's a big part of how we teach. We do a lot of problem-based learning as well. So I think really for Latin American students, for Mexican students, it's not a problem. We like to have students that will talk in class, that will maybe question the lecturer if something isn't clear, or even if they don't agree about something. We would expect to hear those ideas coming forward. Not all cultures are comfortable doing that, but actually we find Latin Americans generally are. They're usually a bit more outgoing, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of our teaching staff really like to have Mexicans and other Latin Americans in their classroom, because they really add a strong dynamic to the group. So that's really nice for you to know. If you're thinking about research either now or in the future, our research environment is, in the UK, it's quite unique. It tends to be you as a student working on your own on certain things. So you have to find a way to get through the process. It's usually 3 or 4 years of study, but you won't have so much of the kind of contact time that you would have on a talk programme. So you have to organise yourself quite well. You'll normally have 1 or 2 supervisors. So those will be the academic staff that oversee your PhD. So that means that you've got 2 people that you can talk to if you're having any problems. But we also have things like research training program through the graduate school, lots of support courses that you can do. So if you have a particular skill that you're worried about, presentation skills in English, or want to develop a certain aspect of English, like taking notes or something like that, then there's all of those things are available. So you can actually do some kinds of classes that help to support your skills and your research skills within the universities. So let's talk about scholarships then for a minute. So I guess there's almost like a pecking order of which are the best scholarships funding to get. And what I've been at some fairs this week here in Mexico, I've been telling students to basically go for everything. Remember that all of these scholarships are not necessarily interlinked. So you apply for one, you may have to wait a long time for the results, so you apply for the next one as soon as it comes up. This is why it's a good idea to have applied for your programme quite soon. So if you haven't applied already, I think it's good to have an application in by kind of December, January, so that you can have your offer and then start to plan which scholarships you'll apply for. So probably the nicest scholarship you could possibly get is the Chevening Scholarship, which comes from the British government, but it's also the most competitive. I actually don't know how many, is it about 25 or 30?
60.
For Mexico, it's quite a lot, actually.
Oh, it's quite good, yeah. So But I think this year we got maybe 2 Mexicans through Achievement at Glasgow. So it's still fairly hard to get, but definitely worth going for. Now, if you're thinking of applying for this year, the deadline for Achievement has just gone, but some of you may have gone for that. So good luck if you've already gone for it. The only thing about Achievement is it's quite a long wait to hear anything about the next stage. So the next stage would be when you hear about whether you've got an interview, and you won't actually know until July whether you've been successful. So in the meantime, just start looking at the other scholarships that are available. So the CONICET scholarships are probably the next best in terms of the support they give you. We give a 30% fee discount if you are successful. So that means the fee is reduced by 30%. Now, CONICET only pay up to a certain amount. They pay 300,000 Mexican pesos for tuition fees. With some of our programs, particularly in science and engineering, there is a gap. So you may have a fee that is about 21,000, take 30% off that. You still have about £1,000 or £2,000 that needs to be paid. So that's the thing to remember about CONICET. I think in the past it was seen as a full scholarship, and now it's not quite there because our fees keep going up and the CONICET grant doesn't go up really. But it's still pretty close. It still gets you most of what you need. If you need extra to help with that, you can go for loans from places like FIDER, the Banco de Mexico. So that means that you can get just as little as you want. You don't have to go for the full amount. So I think if I understand correctly, FIDER is the maximum is 200,000 pesos. So but you don't have to go for all of that. You just try and bridge any gap that you have if you happen to get CONICET funding. We give a 15% discount on both of those, but obviously there are joint calls from places like CONICET FUNED. We would give 30%. So anything that relates to CONICET will get the 30% discount, not just the main call. This year we had about 16 students who got CONICET funding, new students coming to Glasgow. So you get an idea then, so we've got 2 Achieving, 16 CONICET, then you start to see what the probability is. If you're applying for PhD, I guess you've probably got a better chance. I went to visit CONICET this morning, and they are still supporting master's programs, and they are supporting masters for students in Mexico City, which wasn't the case a couple of years ago. They stopped that part of the program. So now it's open to everyone, so everyone's got a pretty good chance of getting it. Now, we have our own scholarships at Glasgow. So this is almost like your Plan C or your Plan B. We can give scholarships of up to £10,000 at Glasgow. So if you think about it, that's probably about 50% of the tuition fee, depending on which program you're going for. So quite helpful if you don't manage to get Achieving, CONICET or anything else. We can't combine these with anything else. So if you got CONICET, we couldn't give you one of these as well because we've already given the 30% discount, so we can't do both. So this is a good thing to have if nothing else works out, but it means that you would need to have quite a bit of your own money to help you support you through the program. Just thinking about living costs as well. All of our scholarships would go towards the tuition fees. We've just reduced the fee accordingly. But living costs from CONICET, they still give a stipend, which is not that high, but it's just about enough to get away with. So it helps. If you get Achieving scholarship, that also includes living costs, and it's a bit more generous. So thinking of living costs, that's roughly what we estimate a student needs every month. So it's around £1,000. Depends on how you spend money, but the things that are fairly fixed, things like accommodation and food. And if you're comparing Glasgow to other cities in the UK, the accommodation cost is what probably is lower than a lot of other cities, particularly if you were looking at London. I think accommodation costs would be probably twice what it is in Glasgow. So that's what helps to make Glasgow quite affordable. It's been voted, another ranking, it's been voted 4th most affordable city in the UK. What's nice about Glasgow being affordable is it's also a very lovely city to live in. So if you're in Glasgow, you're not going to feel like you're living in a cheap city necessarily. So you've got that nice kind of experience, you've got quality of life and affordability at the same time. So thinking about accommodation, I always think it's important it's a way off before you start thinking about accommodation at this time of the year. But one thing I notice about students from Latin America is they're usually a bit older, quite mature, and they often would rather not take student accommodation and maybe take something on their own independently, which is perfectly possible, but it's a lot more difficult to get organised because the chances are you're not going to come to Glasgow before you start your course. So some students will come, just arrive and try and find accommodation there and then, which is quite stressful, I think. And also I wanted to reassure you that we have accommodation for postgraduate students. So that means that you'll be living only with postgraduate students, whether they're doing a PhD or a master's programme. So you won't be mixed in with all of the 17 and 18-year-olds who have left home for the first time and going wild. So they're usually quite focused, serious places to live. I mean, people have fun, obviously, but it means that you can have a kind of quieter experience and expect to be able to get on with your work when you're in your room. So it's quite a nice experience, and it's so much easier to go for university accommodation, and you don't even have to apply till August. But if you do apply by August, you'll be guaranteed a room. The only thing I would say is if you wait until August, you may not get your first choice of residence, and you can find out more about the residences online. Some are more popular than others. So you can normally apply from April time, as long as you've accepted an offer from Glasgow. So that's a good thing to bear in mind. If you wait till quite late, you might not get the nicest, most popular accommodation. So bear that in mind. But that gives you, and it's kind of straightforward because you don't have to pay any extra bills. Everything's included. It's just one flat fee for your rent. It includes all of your utilities, Wi-Fi, and everything else. And then there are people on the site that will kind of look after students. Any problems that you're having, or if you want to change, they will help you out with those. So a little bit about student support as well. So we have quite good student support within the University of Glasgow. It's all located in one part of the university, which we call the Fraser Building, right next door to the library. So there's lots of support you can get before you even arrive. So we have a whole online system called Ask a Student. We also have another system called UniBuddy as well. So this is where we get our own students to talk to students online and advise them about things they might be worried about. And then once students arrive, there is international student support, which advises on visas, but also puts on special welcome events for international students to make sure they feel integrated. And then we also have a doctor's surgery, so if medical doctors are available, you can register with them and get basic medical treatment whenever you need it through the NHS, which is obviously a free national health service that we have in the UK. And then there are lots of other services, and all of these services are completely specialised, so they're very professional. Career service, disability service, counselling if you should need it at any point. So all these services are very professional and very high quality. So it's just a matter of you asking for them if you need them. That's the only thing I think we kind of rely on students to do, particularly if it's anything related to counselling and psychological services. A little bit about sport. So we have a lot of Glasgow Union, Students' Union Association, which is very much focused on sport. We have two unions within the University of Glasgow, and it's a bit of a strange tradition. So the Student Union is the body that represents the interests of students across the UK. Then each university has their own branch of it. We actually have two. So GUSA is the one which focuses on the sports, and strangely enough, in the past, this was the male students' union, and then we have a female students' union, which is called the Queen Margaret Union. And both of these unions still exist, but they aren't exclusively male or female, so people can join both. And it is a bit of a stereotype, but you have the sports in what was the male union, and you have all of the arts and culture, female union. But also the Queen Margaret Union is a very good venue for music gigs and comedy as well. So just forget about the kind of history. It's nice to have two unions that have two different focuses, and everyone can join both, so that's quite good. So orientation is quite a useful thing that we have for our international students. It's really good to make the most of this so that you can make sure that you settle as well as possible when you first arrive in Glasgow. They'll provide information on what you might want to do on employment. Remember that we have, or are very, very likely to relaunch the post-study work visa this year. So it means that students starting in 2020 may be able to stay for up to 2 years to work after they've graduated. The only caveat to that is if you have funding from CONSIP, for example, they won't let you do that. They'll want you to go back straight away. But if you are self-funded, then that will be open to you. But yes, the orientation is specifically geared for international students to make sure that there's nothing that you're missing and that you're settling and that you're doing all of your registration and health registration, registering with the doctor, registering with the police so that they know who you are and all of that stuff. So that we help to make sure you get all of that done quite quickly. And that's where I'm going to stop. So if you want to send me any emails, that's my email address there. Are there any questions that anybody would like to ask?
We do have some.
Yes. We have one here that says, of the total of Mexicans that are in Glasgow, how many are in social sciences and how many of them have a scholarship?
Well, it's very specific.
Yeah, I can have a bit of a guess at it. So we've got about 50 Mexican students. I think probably around 30 of those have got scholarships at the moment. Probably between 30 and 35 have scholarships. And within social sciences, probably we have a majority are in science and in engineering programs. But there are a few in social sciences and even in business school on our MBA as well. We have a few.
Okay. Somebody's also interested in the Erasmus program on security, intelligence, and strategic studies, and he wants to know more about Erasmus.
Okay, so there might be a few of you interested. We've got a range of these programs. I think we have about 7 Erasmus programs now. They are proving to be very popular because they are basically 2-year masters in 3 different locations in Europe. We manage the admissions for all of the ones that we're in, so it means that you spend the first semester of the programme you would spend in Glasgow. These programmes have scholarships attached to them, also from Erasmus, but not everybody will get that scholarship. So if you get an offer for the Erasmus programme, you may get a scholarship, but it's not guaranteed. It's probably maybe about a third or a quarter of the people who get offered a scholarship. The scholarships are restricted by nationality as well, so you can't have more than 2 or 3 of one nationality getting a scholarship on one programme. So it's quite restrictive, but a bit easier for Latin Americans than it would be if you were from Thailand or China, where we have a lot more applicants. So you're not competing too hard with others, but they are competitive, those scholarships.
Okay, thank you. We also have another question. They say, is there any useful link for reference for the Commonwealth Scholarship?
No.
Yes, there should be. The Commonwealth Scholarship is only attached to certain programmes as well, so it's not a broad scholarship that you can apply for any programme. We've got a list, I can't name all the programmes, but there are probably about 5 or 6 programmes that have Commonwealth scholarships attached to.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
Yes, I don't really understand how the FIDER and FINED discount works, because I want to apply for that school, but I don't know.
Okay, so basically whatever you get from FIDER or FINED, it's a small amount, we'll give a 15% discount on the tuition fee. So your tuition fee will get reduced by 15%. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I can only apply for the CONACYT FONCA scholarship, but I don't know if it is the same.
The CONACYT FINED, do you mean?
No, CONACYT FONCA is for humanities.
Yeah. Yes, you can apply for that, and if you get that, it will be a 30% discount. So anything that is CONACYT related will be 30% discount.
Do you, Victoria, any questions? No, not so far.
Any other questions over here with the online assistance? You can put it on the chat.
I have another question. Last year I was given an unconditional offer for the Erasmus Mundus children's literature media and culture program.
Oh, yeah.
Even though my TOEFL IBT score was lower, they asked me 92 points, and I got 91. But I don't know if I need to take the exam another time, because the program I want to apply is similar as Erasmus. It's children's literature.
But it's not the Erasmus program.
No, but they asked me 92 points, also 92 points.
So how are your individual scores? Have they met the requirements?
Yes,
All
but
of
not
the overall.
Yes.
I think hopefully then we can try to be flexible, but it'll be worth Have you made the application already?
No, because I applied also for the Chipling scholarship, and they asked me to get an unconditional offer. So
Okay.
I don't know if.
I think you should apply to our program and send me an email when you have applied,
Okay.
and then I can try to ask if you can be flexible. Because if you've scored the required amount in all of the 4 skills, then you're only 1 point short. Then hopefully we can be flexible.
Okay.
Let's try.
Thank you.
We have another question. It says, regarding the scholarship from the school, how does a leadership scholarship work? Or is there any method to apply for that one?
Yeah, I should have mentioned that. That's a good question. So basically, our own scholarships, we have quite a few. Some of them are worth 5,000, some of them are worth 10. You don't really have to do anything to be considered for one. So we will just look at students who meet what we call our highly qualified applicant status. And for Mexicans, that's usually anyone who's got above 8.5. And so we will then automatically consider you for scholarships and award you with one. And we do it all the way through the year, so there's no deadline for this. So you may well hear from us that you've been awarded a scholarship. And in the meantime, you might be waiting on Chevening, you might be waiting on CONACYT. We just keep that in the background to then see how you do with the other ones. If you get Chevening or get CONACYT, then we take that scholarship offer away. But it's there as a kind of plan B for you if you need it.
Somebody says thanks. And then Mariela is saying, is the university average grade important to get postgraduate studies of Glasgow University? And which one is the minimum? Which is the minimum grade?
Yeah, so we do have a minimum requirement. It's 8.0, which is quite generous actually, because I know a lot of Mexicans get a lot higher than that. So I'm often meeting students to get 9 or more. So yeah, I think that's our minimum is 8.0. 8.5 means that you'll be considered for a scholarship as well. So it's quite a good. And I think the reason we are quite generous is because in the UK, nobody gets 90% in anything ever. So we don't mark, we mark in a different way. In the UK, a first class degree, which is the top band of degree, would be 70%. So we have a completely different marking system, which actually probably works for your advantage in Mexico, because when an admissions officer sees 9.2, they think, wow, the student's amazing. So that's good for you.
Yeah. I have a question related to the World Changers campaign.
Yeah.
How does it work?
Yeah, so what we do is students can apply for it. So it's a current student.
Every year.
Yeah, and you can apply to become, and basically the World Changers project is the way that you're going to change the world through doing your degree program. I did have a link to a video actually from, I think he's called Pavel. So we've actually got 2 Mexicans who have short videos on our World Changes page. So it's worth having a look at those.
We can look at those if you want to.
And they'll talk about how what they're doing is going to change the world. It doesn't have to be changing the whole world, but it will be changing something for the better. So that's the kind of thing that they're quite keen to do. Now, what happens with that is you can apply to do it, and they'll make videos of probably around 30 students, and then they make more detailed videos of about 5 of them. So they select like a top 5 according to what the story is, and go and film them on location and that kind of thing. Pavel, this is actually we'll show this as well, this is Scotland in Now video, but this is a nice video to watch about education in Scotland, to get you feeling emotional about Scotland.
Yeah. Let's go for it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Studying in Scotland now is everything.
Oh, sorry, guys. I just want to move this a little bit around.
Now is the moment you turn dreams into reality. Now is blazing new trails. Now is relentlessly curious. Now is new skills, new careers, new industries. Now transforms lives. Now changes worlds. Now is asking the biggest of questions. Now is stopping to listen. Now builds hope and grows reputations. Now is a culture built on knowledge and learning. Now is hope. warmest of welcomes. Now is the start of the road to success. Choose a world-renowned education. There is no waiting. Scotland is now.
So that's the kind of video that shows Scotland. Not shows Scotland, it's actually right, but that shows kind of what studying Scotland's like. There's a lot of pictures of Glasgow in that video, but it's also a lot of pictures of other universities like Aberdeen and Edinburgh as well, and also pictures of Scotland in general. On slide number, I think it's number 6, there should be a link to the World Changing video for Pavel, who is.
There it is.
So he's one of our world changers from Mexico. I think he's studying kind of medical related.
I'm Pavel. I'm from Mexico. I'm studying the master's degree program in the University of Glasgow in clinical trials and stratified medicine. Back there in Mexico, I'm a licensed physician. My ambition is to develop a subcutaneous implant for controlled release of antibodies. I think and I'm convinced that in the near future this will benefit patients with primary immunodeficiencies and patients that are under treatment with monoclonal antibodies. The first thing I have to do is to find a tutor, a mentor that guides me and provides me access to an immunology lab. I already developed a technique to encapsulate or trap antibodies within a hydrogel. So I need to see if they are, during their encapsulation, if they keep functional, if their structure is preserved. I really didn't expect it to be chosen as a future world changer. I just sent
Oh,
Something happened there.
what was that?
or submitted my application, and they answered me back that I was selected as a world changer. It feels awesome that the university, I actually feel quite lucky, but also I feel this responsibility of give something back to the university. That will be my effort, 100%. And I will also endeavor and pursue constantly this obsession of mine of developing this implant.
You can show that video as well, actually. So we'll make the last one, but it's actually.
Sorry, something. Which one was it?
No, it was just coming up next.
Yeah, it was coming up next, but it's not here anymore.
Over
Here.
Math.
Let's
It's not on the bottom, really, is it? On the.
This implant.
This one.
Again,
Ahí está.
There we go.
How many people in the chat?
Let me see. Okay, we'll see this in a little while.
That's it. No more videos.
Perfect.
So, are there any other questions?
There is a question over here, but give me a second because something's going on with the computer.
Yeah, it's behaving, huh?
It's not behaving. There we go. Here we go. We have a question. It says, if I want to apply to an Erasmus Mundus International Master, can I get a Conacyt scholarship or any other?
I think you can't get any other scholarships. Conacyt, for example, is aimed at courses that are in one location, so they won't fund anything that's any kind of joint program. And I don't know for sure that FIDE wouldn't give a little loan towards it, but obviously FIDE is limited, so they might be able to help. You can check that because I'm going to go and see them on Wednesday, so I'll see what they think about those programs. Not consider, not.
As far as we know, regarding student loans from the federal government, you can apply to any foreign degree as long as Conacyt has an agreement with that university.
Okay.
However, it has to be assessed on a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a different kind of loan. Is that the FIDE?
Is it same FIDE
Yeah.
or FUNET? Yeah,
Okay.
it's the same.
Okay. Oh, that's good to know. Thank
Yes, FUNET gives up to 15,000 US dollars, and FIDE will give the 200,000 pesos.
Yeah, this has to be an agreement and an offer already, an existing offer.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the basic conditions. For an Erasmus Mundus, we have to confirm directly with the authorities.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is it possible to work like only 20 hours?
That's right, maximum 20 hours. Realistically, 20 hours working is going to be tricky to do alongside studying. So a lot of students might do something like 10 hours a week. And it's just for pocket money, really. It doesn't give you your living costs. It's not going to help you pay your rent. It's just going to give you a bit more money to have more fun, perhaps, or to be able to get nicer things, go shopping, go away for the weekend. That kind of thing. So it's not going to support your costs. It helps a bit.
And also, can I ask to someone maybe do some like internship or just like
As part, while you're doing your program,
to gain experience?
you might be able to do that during the holiday periods. So like Christmas, Easter, but you're only going to get 3 weeks during that time. Possibly in the summer period, while you do a master's, you've got your dissertation to do. So there's a bit of flexibility then. But I think you just have to be careful with internships that they're not too long and they don't interfere with your study too much.
Any other questions of the online participants?
I do have a question regarding languages.
Yeah.
The thing is that many Mexican students are very applying for social sciences masters. They are interested in languages as well. The way it works in Mexico is as long as you're like studying, like having a course in a Mexican university, you get access to either very cheap or free language courses. How does it work in Glasgow?
Yeah, we call them short courses,
Yeah.
and they can be done outside of your normal timetable. They're usually in the evenings.
Okay.
They should be free. I don't remember whether they're either very low cost or free for students, and most languages are offered.
Oh, nice.
So you can do Mandarin, Arabic, Portuguese, things like that as well.
Okay.
But the good thing is it's not part of the daily curriculum, so you can fit it in the evenings if you want to do it.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions over here?
Yes, the English courses that you show us, or the English department that you mentioned, have an extra cost, or
So the support courses. It depends what they're for. So for the research students, there wouldn't be an extra cost for any of those kind of courses. You can do in-sessional English for any level of study. It depends how involved the course is. Some of them do have an extra cost, but most of them don't.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for joining. Thank you for the people from Bolivia and all those places that were here as well. We probably didn't talk much about the scholarships for people from Bolivia, but you can also talk to us in Innova and we can guide you through that process as well. And thank you, Joe, for being here. It was really useful for everybody. I think for us as well as staff, it's very good to know more about the university. And if you have any doubts, please don't hesitate to contact us. Remember, in Innova, we can help you out with your whole process. from the application to Glasgow University through to the visa process, and the whole process is for free. Ugo, would you like to say something?
I just would like to add something for our Bolivian friends that there are also very good scholarship programs for your people with your passports. The most important one is 100 becas. Also, people from Paraguay can apply for the Becal. Yeah, that's right, for the Becal program. And if anyone is, I'm really not sure, but probably we have Peruvian or Ecuadorian friends. If you're also listening to us, your government holds very good scholarship programs. So don't hesitate to contact us, and we'll make sure to the information reaches you.
Uruguayans also have
The
ANI.
ANI,
Yeah.
the
Actually, I
NII.
should mention if you've got a range of people, nationalities, we have an agreement with ANI for Uruguay, with Glasgow.
Yeah, that's right.
We are working on one with Becal, Paraguay, which will hopefully be ready very soon.
Okay.
So that should be ready for 2020. Cien Becas doesn't really do that, I don't think, so we won't have an agreement for Bolivia, Cien Becas. I know that with chevening in Bolivia, there's just 7 spots for chevening this year,
Yeah.
but Glasgow got 2 of them. So we got a strong percentage of Bolivian
Or Bolivian
chevenes. And I've met them both and they're very happy so far. So hopefully, yeah. And don't forget all of the scholarships we have in Glasgow apply to everyone as well, not just Mexicans.
Okay. With any, like, the kind of scholarship that you have with them, like the agreement, sorry, would it do a discount like CONACYT?
Yeah, so it's not as high as CONACYT.
Okay.
So CONACYT has a higher discount because we have a long track record of receiving students for years now. And also because CONACYT demands a high discount. But with all of the other scholarship bodies that we're just signing with now, it's 15%.
15%. Great. Well, thank you, and thank you everybody who's thanking as well. Have a good night. Bye.
Pause.